First of all, welcome to Explore 2025. It's so awesome to see this packed room, on Monday, day one here as we kick off this morning. This is, making sure you're in the right session. The benefits of going from VMware vSphere to VMware Cloud Foundation 9.0. Quick introductions. My name is Mark Chuang. I lead up our product marketing team in the VCF division. And joining me in this session, that'll come up on stage a little bit later on, will be Sonali Desai, who is one of my team members, also in product marketing, and Anthony Huey, where we want to give you a chance to just hear from one of your peers in terms of the journey that he and his organization have been on. Long-time vSphere user as well, but now very much, adopting VCF. Super quick introduction about my background. I've been with VMware since 2007. So that takes me back to like the VI 3 days, right? So if y'all remember that name from before we called it vSphere. And vSphere is near and dear to my heart. I used to lead product management and product marketing for vSphere. I think I still have the t-shirt in my closet that says I heart vSphere. So again, near and dear to my heart. But what we'd like to share with you about in this session is, the journey and the evolving requirements that bring us to this era of the modern private cloud that is delivered by VCF. So, we'll do a business overview here, but please, out of this session, a very rich set of technical sessions that'll go deep into vSphere itself, along with a lot of sessions that'll go deep into VCF. But what we want to cover here today is just the overall set of use cases that we're seeing customers leverage VCF for when we're talking about that full private cloud platform. So with that, let's go ahead and dive in. Disclaimer slide, we'll absolutely be talking about, innovations that exist today, but if we touch upon anything in the futures, here's just all the disclaimers from my legal team. All right. The agenda, I do want to spend a few slides up front about vSphere, right? Again, I love this product. It continues to be the gold standard. I'll just highlight very briefly some of the most recent innovations with the VCF 9.0 release that came out just a few months ago. Cover why we see the modern private cloud as playing such a critical role. I don't think it's an overstatement to say in the same way that I think many of us in this room together experienced a transformative impact when compute virtualization came on the scene. We really can see that same level of impact as we now talk about the full entire stack. Okay. Highlight the business outcomes. That's where the use cases will come in. Then I'll bring Anthony up. He'll share about his experience with his organization. And we'll just wrap up with a few pointers to additional resources, including sessions happening later on today and the rest of the week that we would say are, don't miss, right? Really good ones for you to drop in on. All right. Let me just talk vSphere. If you go out and take a look, right, the slide I'm showing here is a summary from G2.com, one of the leading websites that allow people to share peer reviews, with each other. So these are users of the product. We're just showing some of the latest updates on there. I'm very proud of the fact that, users are getting on there and saying that vSphere is still #1 in terms of the server virtualization enterprise category, and users just going out there talking about how it's super easy to use. A couple of quotes up there that you can see. And G2 is actually here on with us at the show. So if you would be so inclined and you'd like to share your experience with others of your peers for their benefit, please go check them out at the booth. If you do submit a product review with G2, I believe they are providing, different gift cards, okay? A little bit of an incentive. So if you find yourself with 5 or 10 minutes, highly encourage you to go out there and share your experience on G2.com. I had mentioned some of the recent innovations. Having worked on vSphere for so many years, I can say with absolute certainty, on one hand, we're really proud of what we've delivered with vSphere, back ESX, vCenter, VI3, etc. But in no way are we resting on our laurels. And so the innovation engine and the culture that you've known from VMware continues strong. I'm just highlighting a few of them here. And again, please go to the deep dive sessions to double click into these. We're always looking at how we can help you to just maximize the servers that you've got deployed and make the ever-growing environment that I'm sure many of you have easier and easier to operationalize. And so that's the key theme, even as we picked these handful of innovations to highlight, right? Smarter memory usage with the leveraging NVMe for memory tiering. Oftentimes DRAM becomes that bottleneck in our environments. And so with the advent of NVMe drives that are very high performance but lower cost than DRAM, we've been working on this for 3 to 5 years in our R&D teams, just really figuring out ways to transparently optimize so that we are swapping out the colder pages to NVMe so that you're getting the highest densities and utilization to the apps that need it. That's going to drive down your TCO while maintaining high levels of performance. Integration of VPCs in vCenter. For anyone who also has experience working in the public cloud, VPCs are a very common construct. And it's just going to allow you to be able to provision the routing, the load balancing, and the security policies related to your network, but where you're not having to deal and do a deep dive into your physical network or have to submit a whole bunch of manual tickets in order to get that up and going. Okay. We enable this so that it's leveraging VMware NSX, but so that you don't actually have to understand the deep guts of NSX. So that as a person who's familiar with vSphere, being able to handle the virtualized networking in a highly simplified way. Third, live patching for ESX. We're all familiar with maintenance mode, where you're able to evacuate VMs off, but we wanted to be able to reduce that maintenance window even further. So we'll continue to enable more and more types of patches that would be supported by live patching so that you can apply those patches without having to reboot that server, and therefore, you're not going to have to evacuate those virtual machines. Number 4 that I'm calling out here, monster VMs. One of the main things that we did recently is, as you see a lot of the very high core count CPUs in the latest generations, being able to harness the full power of these high core count GPUs within a single VM if that's what your application requires. So now support with for up to 960 cores in that single VM. And then finally, AI vMotion. We haven't really named this officially, but you're all used to vMotion. But now, as we have AI workloads increasingly be important in your organization and in your environment, you've got these GPUs attached to it. And these GPUs are really expensive, right? Relative to how much you're having to pay. So how can we help you to still take advantage of all the operational benefits that you've known over the last 10, 15, 20 years with things like vMotion as that underlying foundation, but enable that with VMs that have a GPU attached. And in many cases, you may be running language models within these VMs, so they can be pretty big and beefy as well. So how do we continue to give you the ability to do the live, the live migration, the vMotion you all know and love, but do it with these large language models with GPUs attached in them so that you're not experiencing downtime? Just a few highlights of the innovation that continues. Please go to the booth, talk to our experts, join the technical sessions. They'll tell you about this and a lot more. But even with my history of working on vSphere, right? What we're seeing today, working with many of you, is that the requirements continue to evolve and change. And so I am standing up here and we'll say, vSphere plus the traditional way of silo 3-tier architectures, we don't believe will give you the automation, the security, the resiliency, and the cost effectiveness that ultimately is required of organizations, right? That's where the modern private cloud comes in. So let me define that, okay? What do we mean by a modern private cloud? Well, first of all, we went out, surveyed 1,800 IT decision makers worldwide, 11 countries, all 3 major geographies, right? 1,800 decision makers just to get the latest pulse in terms of their private cloud plans relative to how they were thinking about public clouds and, all other ways that they were looking to modernize their data center. I'm just going to highlight a few of the things we saw in the data. There is a full report, that's if you do a Google search, or we provide the link here as well, where you can get into a lot of details. But let me just highlight some of the key findings from this report. First of all, we're seeing them report that the private cloud is a preferred platform for deploying their latest workloads. Right? So they're not just thinking about the private cloud for I've got to maintain legacy workloads, etc. Okay? 53% said that they are prioritizing new workloads on their private cloud. All right? And 69% are actively considering or have already started repatriating some, or, we didn't ask exactly how much, but they're starting the repatriation process in order to address some of those concerns that I'm calling out in the middle column, which is what are the tailwinds that we're looking at here? So we've got the security, concerns about privacy, cost, and control around generative AI, and then finally cost overall as the key reasons why they're doubling down on their private cloud investments. And then finally, it's not just about the technology. The organizational aspect is super important. You may have heard people say culture eats strategy any day of the week for lunch, all right? You can have the best strategy in the plan, but if you haven't figured out the people and the process side of it, your strategy has a low likelihood of success. So what we saw is that there's a recognition on this, and they're really seeing what did it take to have the successful teams, even when I was deploying public clouds and applying a lot of those same learnings to the private cloud. So this means platform-focused teams, getting rid of the silos within the teams, and 81% of the people we talked to said they are already in the process of building around these platform teams or already have gone there, right? When done right, what we see as a benefit of these modern private clouds is the agility, scalability, automation, self-service that, prompted a lot of the departments to start doing public clouds, but then of course led to shadow IT. So that other side of the slide is critically important. You've got to be able to have the cost controls, security, resiliency, and sovereignty as well. And bringing the best of the both worlds is what we're building in VCF to deliver the modern private cloud. Let's define that a little bit more, right? When we say private cloud, it's not about a location. It's about having that consistent operating model that you can have from your data center, extended to the edge, extended to public cloud, extended to sovereign providers. It is software-defined top to bottom because that's what gives you the automation in order to keep your costs under control, as well as deliver the self-service that your departments are looking for. It's workload agnostic in the sense that it's got to be able to run all the way from the traditional workloads you all know, but also the modern workloads that be containerized, that can be Kubernetes in terms of its operation. On top of that, all the AI workloads as well. And then finally, security and governance, right? And when I say that, yes, it's security, but it's also about resiliency. It's also about cost predictability and transparency in order for you to keep costs under control, To me, that all falls under governance at the end of the day, right? So that's the definition of ultimately what we're building towards. When we've done analysis on this, we see that there can be significant total cost of ownership savings compared to a traditional 3-tier approach, as well as compared to when you roll up all of the costs of completely going to a native public cloud. There was a blog post earlier this year by David Linthicum, who I believe is joining us here at Explore, and he cites some of the main areas that his analysis showed. David is a longtime analyst in the cloud space, right? He calls out things such as greater predictability of your infrastructure cost, not having to deal with variable egress fees, better capacity planning, not being surprised by unexpected spikes in usage. Just to name a few, please feel free to go and read his blog at length. And again, I believe he is joining us here at Explore this week. All right. So with Cloud Foundation, right, this is just a one-slide architecture summary on it. You know, being able to deliver that consistent cloud operating model across all of these endpoints, data center, edge, public cloud, full stack, software defined so that you're able to do the lifecycle management, the cert management, change your policies, change the configuration, do your maintenance with the automation without the downtime. And then finally, just making sure that we're investing deeply so that you don't have to feel like you have to go to other platforms for other applications. If you haven't gotten a chance to, I would highly encourage you to go learn more about vSphere Kubernetes Service. It's a CNCF conformant certified Kubernetes distribution that we include in VCF. And you'll also hear more at this show about, further integrations of multi-cluster Kubernetes management also being built into VCF, okay? So we want to make it so that you've got that out-of-box experience for traditional containers as well as AI workloads. At the end of the day, right, helping you to increase revenue, reduce risk, and lower cost, okay? How do we ultimately do that? Well, starting from the top with increasing revenue, if we could maintain or accelerate the agility through developer automation. I mean, developers at the end of the day, I know not all organizations have developers, but if you do, that is one of your main sources of the innovation engine within your organization. But even if you don't have developers in your organization, enabling you to be able to run your analytics and your business processes faster so that you can quickly adjust to changing business conditions and be able to make real-time business decisions. That's at the end of the day what we all as IT professionals can do to help our organizations, increase revenue. Secondly, on reducing risk, we are very familiar with age-old technologies such as HAFT stretch clusters, and obviously we'll continue to make that better and better. But one of the key areas of investment is around compliance, because we're hearing more and more, definitely for customers that are in regulated industries, what we're hearing is that the compliance pressures are just mounting and continuing to increase. So how can we help you with this burden? But even outside of regulated industries, I'm hearing that more as well, where whether it be the risk and the scourge of ransomware and just the havoc that can cause in your organization, You'll hear a lot here at Explore this week about how we're looking to help you solve that. And then finally, with lower costs, even if you just look at some of the examples I cited with vSphere innovations, such as with the NVMe memory tiering, but there'll be other sessions talking about vSAN global dedube, where it does deduplication at the cluster level, and then even if you add more hosts into the cluster, we'll maintain the deduplication throughout that environment as well. Just a few examples of how we help to lower cost. Results, okay? With the increasing the revenue through the agility, up to a 61% faster time to deploy new workloads. When it comes to mitigating risk, 66% quicker to resolve data loss incidences. And then finally on cost, up to 34% lower compared to a traditional 3-tier architecture. And then with the public clouds, as you factor in the migration costs, a significant cost savings can be achieved there as well. So with that overview of VCF, I just want to now cover, let's kind of bring it down even one additional level of how can you practically move forward on this? So these are 9 common use cases. We call them use cases internally, but you could also think about them as IT initiatives that may be on the planning docket for your organization, right? We grouped them into infrastructure modernization, how we support the application modernization efforts within your organization, and finally, with security being so top of mind, right? Security, compliance, governance, it's in that 3rd bucket. So on the infrastructure modernization, we'll walk through at a high level the ways that VCF can help you with that initial day 0 deployment, ongoing operations, and then extending that consistent operating model out to the edge, as well as taking advantage of public cloud resources. On application modernization, first and foremost, it's about enabling that self-service, but with built-in guardrails and governance for your application and your platform engineering teams. And then highlighting how we can help you with these containerized and Kubernetes workloads, as well as AI workloads. And then finally, on the security pillar, we'll continue to take a very defense in-depth approach. First and foremost, you've got to harden your platform, right? Prevention first and foremost. Secondly, if something does get into your perimeter firewall, how can we bolster your lateral security defenses and detect when it's gotten in so we could control the blast radius and not have it run amok, within your perimeter. And then finally, even the best, most state-of-the-art preventative security measures, you can't assume that it's going to be 100% effective 100% of the time. So you've got to have that last measure, which is how do you recover, when, not if, but when data gets encrypted, or traditional DR, you've got the hurricanes, earthquakes, power outages, etc. So to walk us through the next level of detail, I'm going to invite Sonali to come up.
Thanks, Mark. So, as you know, we all love vSphere. You have been using vSphere for last 20 plus years. vSphere is great. But as Mark shared, there are a lot of new strategic IT initiatives that you are going through or that's on your radar. And I'm going to, in my section, I'm going to talk about, for infrastructure modernization, or if you are trying to modernize applications or modernize your security posture of your infrastructure, then what are some of the challenges you typically face when you do that with traditional 3-tier architecture? And then when you move from your traditional 3-tier architecture to VCF as a private cloud platform, what are some of the key capabilities that you can utilize to satisfy some of those use cases? So first, let's begin with infrastructure modernization. So when you have a traditional 3-tier infrastructure, you have that siloed infrastructure components, and it's very complex to integrate those components. Also, there is skill gaps, like you need to learn new tools, skill sets to manage these different infrastructure components. Also, ever-rising cost, that is the main concern. Like you have idle compute, extra storage, and you are not using that, but still you are paying for that. Limited scalability, so you want to scale your infrastructure as your business grows, or you need that flexibility, you don't want that vendor lock-in. And last, very important one is fragmented infrastructure management. So customers say, like, we have 10 different consoles or different logins for different infrastructure component management, and that is very cumbersome. So to help you with resolving those challenges, we have VMware Cloud Foundation here. And that's why we want you to move from vSphere to VCF, and that's why we say VCF is a new vSphere now. So say if you want to build and deploy your private cloud infrastructure on premises. So here I have listed down some of the top capabilities of VCF. So first is VCF installer. So with VCF 9.0 release, we launched VCF installer with VCF stack. So what you can do with that is you get this automated API or GUI, and that gives you a step-by-step workflow for your VCF deployment. So basically it provides you the pre-embedded pre-checks, so you can't miss any step while doing that deployment. Then we are providing you fleet management for your date zero operations. So it may be like license management, certificate management, password management, or identity management, or single sign-on, whatever, right? So you can manage the entire VCF fleet from a single pane of glass with VCF operations, and VCF operations is part of your VCF stack. Also, if you have existing vSphere or vSAN or say NFS environments and you want to move to VCF instance, then we provide you seamless import and convert capabilities. So there is very less complexity involved over there. Suppose, say, you have a use case where you want to optimize your infrastructure and operations. Then we have a bunch of capabilities in VCF. First is automated deployment and lifecycle management of your entire VCF stack. So you can do that for vSphere, vSAN, NSX, VCF automation, and VCF operations, from bring up configuration to automated updates, upgrades, patches, everything. And also you get the global operations. So as I mentioned, with VCF operations being a built-in component of VCF stack, you have this global intelligent operations. So may it be performance optimization or capacity management or cost efficiency management, monitoring. You can do all that with a single console. And last, very important one is we are providing you some resource optimization innovations for each of the component in the stack. Like for example, as Mark mentioned, NVMe memory tiering. So you can add that secondary tier of memory by adding NVMe device to your existing host. So if you want to increase your memory footprint, you don't need to buy additional host. Also NSX enhanced data path. So with that, you can do kernel optimizations and offline DPU offload, and with that you can reduce your latency. Also vSAN global deduplication. So you can identify the redundant data blocks. You can remove those not just within your disk groups, but also across different hosts in a cluster. And a last important use case in this area is, say, if you want to extend your data center from to edge locations or to public or sovereign clouds, then for edge use cases, we launched VCF Edge last year. So that is basically the optimized configuration of VCF tailored for the edge use cases. And this year with VCF 9.0 release, we are supporting single node cluster, like single host VKS cluster that you can deploy at the edge. So literally very small footprint that you need, especially for the edge sites. Also with VCF operations HCX being part of VCF stack, you have this seamless workload mobility. So you can move your workloads from vSphere 6.x to your VCF instance, or say if you want to move from private cloud to public cloud, you can do that seamlessly. And VCF license portability. So you can port your VCF licenses on premises or on any certified cloud service providers or hyperscaler partners. And with the main advantage of that is you get that flexibility and investment protection with that. So here I would like to highlight the customer success story of Audi. So Audi, in their Bollinger-Hofe plant, the main problem that they had was they had industrial PCs, like huge hardware footprint. They were using industrial PCs for multiple functions, like manufacturing, execution system, then preventive maintenance, or programmable logic controllers, tool controllers. So they were having huge infrastructure costs there, and also they had like all these hardware maintenance, operating expenses issues. Another big issue they had was like when they tried to upgrade their industrial PCs, it used to take like around 20 to 30 minutes downtime. So that was a huge thing for them. So they moved to VMware Cloud Foundation and they deployed VCF at their shop floors, and they were able to not just reduce the cost, but also they reduced the downtime from 20 to 30 minutes to just few minutes. And they also improved their performance for their programmable logic controllers. Okay, so now let's move on to the application modernization, how VCF can help you modernize your applications. As you know, like when you try to modernize your applications, you have multiple challenges. And first and foremost that we always hear from customers is lack of automation and self-service capabilities. So basically your application teams, they keep waiting for those IT tickets to get resolved so that they can get their infrastructure resources to build applications. Also, they have different platforms, like for traditional applications, one platform, for modern applications, one platform. It is very difficult to manage those platforms, and then there are multiple tools, different management interfaces, different skill sets, so big learning curve over there for their application teams. And last but not the least, they are very, very concerned about security and privacy of the data. So with VMware Cloud Foundation, we are helping you resolve these challenges. So we will go over some of the key use cases or some of the key scenarios where customers think about modernizing their applications and they need some modern infrastructure. So first, they want to enable their application teams with self-service infrastructure. So for that, we are providing you VCF automation, another built-in component in the VCF stack. And you, with VCF automation, you get this modern cloud interface. So with that portal, it gives you infrastructure consumption experience for your infrastructure consumers. And at the same time, for administrators in the same portal, you get infrastructure governance and monitoring capabilities. Also, VCF automation gives you private cloud services. So what we mean by private cloud services is we are giving you VM service or Kubernetes service, database service, network service. So how it works is basically your application teams, they can provision these services the same way they can do it in the public cloud. And also VCF automation gives you a low-code approach with infrastructure as code. So we are giving you ability to create custom blueprints with the visual design canvas. So you can just drag and drop and specify the machines and applications you want in that particular infrastructure, and you are good to go. Say if you want to build, run, and manage your Kubernetes or any other modern applications. So as Mark mentioned, we are providing the integrated Kubernetes runtime with vSphere Kubernetes service. So that is again CNCF compliant container orchestration. So it ensures that all the necessary building blocks are there for your cloud native app development. And with VCF 9.0 release, we are also providing you VKS cluster management. So you can manage your clusters and cluster groups from there. Also, we are providing support for Istio service mesh. So that gives you advanced security and observability capabilities like, say, service discovery or service-to-service communication or load balancing. You get all that with this. And last important one, especially in today's era, is private AI applications. So as you know, we have a seamless integration with VMware Private AI Foundation with NVIDIA. And with that, you get a lot of capabilities like deep learning VM templates or vector databases for RAG workflows or enterprise AI capabilities that NVIDIA provides. So you get all of that. And also you get this secure model delivery and security patching. Especially this is important from privacy and security perspective. And with the latest release, we are providing capabilities like model runtime or agent builder service that helps you streamline the model deployment. And also you don't have to do manual GPU monitoring. So here I would like to highlight another customer story. So United States Senate Federal Credit Union. So they wanted to consolidate their fragmented IT infrastructure, and at the same time, they wanted to deliver some innovative services to their members, but they were very worried about the privacy and security of their members' data. So they used VMware Cloud Foundation to virtualize their infrastructure, and then they used VMware Private AI Foundation with NVIDIA to deliver this tightened security and privacy, but at the same time deliver innovative applications to their members. And now let's move on to security modernization. So as you know, like security and resiliency is very important. So with the traditional architecture, you have this fragmented security. So it is not consolidated security across all layers of infrastructure. There is no full stack resilience. There is lack of lateral threat protection. Also, there is lack of defense against modern threats, and with ransomware attacks rising, there is no preparedness for any natural disasters. Also compliance, right? So if you miss the compliance, you face hefty fines, lot of risks involved. So with VMware Cloud Foundation, we are trying to help you with all these challenges. If you are trying to strengthen your compliance and harden your infrastructure, then we have comprehensive security at every layer of infrastructure. So be it hardware security, data security, so we are providing data at rest encryption, data in motion encryption, confidential computing. Also, we are providing advanced networking and security features. Also, this infrastructure is hardened out of the box with capabilities like identity federation, or you have other capabilities like vMotion or DRS. So you get that out of the box infrastructure hardening. With VCF operations, especially on the compliance side, we are providing continuous compliance monitoring. So if there is any compliance drift, you immediately get the alerts. And with VCF 9.0 release, we are providing you a centralized security operations dashboard. So what it gives you is a single pane of glass view for your user security and infrastructure security across your entire VCF deployment. Say another important scenario, especially in today's era, is how can you protect your environment from lateral movement of threats, or you want to have intrusion prevention and detection system in place. So for that also we have a seamless integration with advanced service called as VMware vDefend distributed firewall. And what it does is basically it provides you a layer 2 to layer 7 stateful firewalling capabilities that will help you defend against the lateral movement of threats. And also this advanced service gives you distributed intrusion detection and prevention system, IDPS. So what it does, it inspects the network traffic for any malicious activities, and you also get network detection and response. So basically you can visualize the attack chains by correlating the security events. And last but not the least is ransomware recovery and disaster recovery. That is a very important use case that we always hear from our customers. And for that, we have seamless integration with another advanced service, which is VMware Live Recovery. So VMware Live Recovery gives you ransomware recovery and disaster recovery capabilities from a single unified management plane. And also, if you want to have like built-in resilience, then we are providing the full stack resilience with built-in capabilities like vSphere HA or vSphere fault tolerance or vSAN replication, vSAN snapshot, stretch cluster. So all of these are already built in. You don't have to pay anything extra for that. And here I would like to highlight, I would like to highlight the Dubai airport story, where, as you know, like Dubai airport's one of the busiest airports in the world, and they wanted to develop cyber resilient, sustainable IT infrastructure, and they used VMware Cloud Foundation and VMware vDefend for that. So in the interest of time, I'll just move over to our next section. So Here we will switch gears and we'll talk about how you can advance your career journey with VMware Cloud Foundation. And for that, let me invite Anthony Hui from Ascension, and he will share his experience. Anthony, can you introduce yourself?
I'll make this really quick because some of you may remember me from last year from VRA, from HCX, and earlier with Verni. My name is Anthony Huey. I'm currently from Ascension, but last year I was with DirecTV, AT&T, and I've been doing this for way too long. I drank the Kool-Aid in 2019 when they announced VCF. I went down the road. I have fully bought in. I did it at DirecTV, and now I'm working with my Ascension team to try to do it over here again, which should be fun. But I'll skip over a lot of the other things I was talking about. But when I say full stack engineer, what do you guys all think? Something around software development, probably, right? All right. VMware's full stack engineer. What is a VMware full stack engineer? That's everything. That's your full layer, 1 through 7, going from your infrastructure, your networking, your storage, all across. That's what you have to know. You want to start talking about your career and what it is to keep on moving when you guys are all, looking at VMware and the third rail of licensing that is VMware. To keep going in VMware, to keep going down this path, you have to go to the full stack. You have to know the networking, the storage, the compute, the physics of infrastructure, what CPU, memory, latency, all of those fun things. There's a bunch of stuff here, but we'll skip over that. For the management people, I want to throw this out there. TCO and ROI, those are great letters we all know. In the VMware stack, going through the full VMware stack, the more you use, the greater the ROI, the lower the TCO. That's what you need to know. If you need to boil it down for the management of the community, or management of the world, or the other people, TCO, ROI, the more you use, the cheaper it gets. That's just the way it is. Use the titles. Now, with that said, you don't have to use them all. Don't be afraid. If you haven't gone down that journey yet, and you haven't learned it yet, you can piecemeal this. It's not that it's not hard. It's hard. Don't get me wrong. Everything we do is hard. It is what it is. But you can do it. You can bring in pieces. You can greenfield it. You can brownfield it. You can do a combination. You can link them with the stuff that's coming on the roadmap. Eventually, it'll get a lot easier, but you can do it. You saw earlier the modernization of the platform. We've been doing this for how long? Going from individual servers all the way through to now the cloud that we have. You can do it. It took me 2 years just to sell it over at DirecTV, and then it took me another 3 years to implement it. So it's not a short process, and whether you're the engineer installing it and architecting it, or you're the management approving it, it's going to take a little while. Anyways, I know that we were running out of time, but this is the next generation. VMware is evolving. Broadcom is evolving, and we've all been evolved over the years, and it is what it is. So you guys can do this, know your infrastructure, know the whole thing, networking, storage, all the way up through the application layer. You have to do it all, and unfortunately you can't just stay in your little ESXi environment like we used to 20 years ago. So I know that we're out of time, but anyways, I'm around. If anyone wants to stop and talk, I've got a bunch of friends over here too who are way smarter than I am that can also answer some questions, but thanks. Deuces.
Thank you. Thanks, Anthony.
Fastest presentation ever.
And we are coming to the last section. So there are different flexible pathways where you want to move from vSphere X to VCF9. So depending upon use cases, you can deploy the different components available in VCF stack. Because of the time, I won't go into detail on this. And we have multiple programs to help you along the way. So we have some maturity assessments. We have professional services that can help you. And also we have some free digital learning courses available along with hands-on labs. I have put all the links over here. If you would like, you can take a picture and explore it later. Okay, and then also we have a lot of good sessions. So I have listed down some of the good sessions over here. So we have set the stage. Now you can go to some of these sessions and learn more about how you can move from vSphere to VCF. And with that, we have come to an end of our presentation. So we are here for Q&A. So thank you so much for joining us today.